What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Martian and Ozzy podcast. This week, we are back to analyze the UFC card going down this weekend, headlined by Grant Dawson versus Bobby Green. 11 fights going down from the UFC Apex. We had last week off, first weekend with no UFC, and I believe 17 weeks. Hope everybody enjoyed the break, but we are back this week, and I'm joined by my co-host, as always, Ozzy. How we doing this week, my man?
Doing great. Spooky season is upon us. They gave me a week in between for my heart between Grant, Gamrot last week and Grant this week. I don't know if I could have handled that back to back weeks, but thank you, Uncle Dana, Sean Shelby, McMaynard gave me that week off. I used it well. I have a lot of events coming up as well. A lot of things going on in my world. But we're back for another UFC card this week. We got Bellator as well, which is a little grim. But I'm not too excited about all the fights. I do like seeing Grant obviously in the top billing. But other than that, so we got a few spots that I like. But always great to be back with the loyal listeners. What episode are we on now, Martian? What is it? Is it getting close to 100?
92, maybe?
92. So we should be, maybe we'll line up with UFC. Oh, no, not UFC 300. We won't line up with that. But, in the next, are we going to hit that by the end of the year? Or do they have eight events before the end of the year or no? Maybe
Yeah, I
not.
think so.
Don't check. Right around there. Maybe the last, right around there, right around December. So maybe we'll do a giveaway for the loyal YouTube commenters specifically.
Yeah,
But
I have a UFC 150 poster that we might give away. If
nice.
anybody, that'll be a good prize. Yeah,
Perfect.
definitely 8 events before the end of the year. There's probably closer to like 12. Um,
Sick.
but yeah, off week, like you said, Gamrot and Grant, you bought their stock a long time ago. A long time ago. I
Long
doubted at
time ago.
times. But I was wrong at times. I eventually learned. I got on the wagon a little late, but I got on the wagon. Ozzy has been banging some drums that I've been reluctant at first to get on. The middleweight being the best division, being another one. He often reminds me of
My
that.
takes are not undefeated, but when they win, they really win.
Right. That's true. That's a good way to put it. But last week was pretty successful week for me. I think about 2 unit profit. Obviously Gamrot closed it out real well. Some decent bets. Actually, no, it wasn't. It was a small. It was only a minuscule profit week for me, but did go with live bets and this and that, of course. A couple guys laid eggs for us, specifically Jay Collier and Ricardo Ramos laid eggs. Dan Ige, I'm happy with my bet on him. I thought he fought well. It was a great fight.
Had you on the edge of your seat. You were people were locked. Everybody was locked in on that fight. So
Yeah,
you
I
give
mean
me
that was
plus
amazing.
180. Yeah, you give me plus 180 on something like that. I mean, it's pretty binary, obviously, like a lot of people say with the ground versus the stand up. But Bryce did his thing. You took him down right into extremely dominant positions, and you really can't let that happen to you within the 5-minute round. So at any point, you really it just looks so bad that it just. But
And
either
I
way,
don't love Bryce Mitchell as a fighter, but I do think that was a remarkable win. It was a great comeback. Obviously, he was getting hurt and stung at points in the fight. He turned it all around. And let's talk about the theater of a Bryce Mitchell fight. I mean, put this guy in front of all the. I mean, last week was at the Apex, right? I believe so. Yeah,
Yep,
total
yep.
waste of potential. I mean, this guy with the
We need him
fucking
at the press
Bible.
conference. We need
The
him at the press
Bible? Oh,
conference.
yeah. Asking to pray. I mean, he must have known that Dan Ige is like a devout Catholic as well, and it would like
Yes.
imagine that. I mean, these guys just got into a dogfight, and then they're praying with one another to the Lord Savior Jesus Christ in the octagon after. I mean, it's great stuff. Great stuff.
Bryce Mitchell needs to be on either the next Jacksonville card or UFC 300. One of the two. Pick one, McMaynard or Sean.
Right.
I don't know who does it, but let's have him and I don't even know. They just announced Evloev versus this other guy. Maybe him and Cater. Maybe they could do that one, or him and
Ooh,
Ortega. That'd be great.
that would be great. That's a great idea.
That's a
I was
nice one.
thinking of it would be a step back at this point, but I'm pretty sure Bryce Mitchell was supposed to fight Jonathan St. Pierce at one point.
Pierce. They say
Not
Pierce has a fight coming up, but they haven't announced it. But it's not obviously it's not Bryce, but maybe in 2024. But Bryce did his thing. Ricardo Ramos for me was the biggest bed shitter. That was just totally embarrassing. I hate when guys get guillotined. Apparently, Charles Jourdain has a world class guillotine. That was ass. I hated that. But Tim Means was an awesome underdog. He wrecked Fialo's world. Was very confident in that one. And then on the prop side of things, I like that Argueta, Johns to go the distance, but I did pass on a few reads that I had that were great plus money. So I'm gonna try not to do that going forward. Continue to pound, and hopefully we finish this last. Now we're in Q4, right, Martian? Now we are in
Oh yeah,
Q4,
we in Q4.
and
Um,
finish Q4 resounding with a resounding success. I anticipate
one
this.
point I want to make before we get in. I was listening to a podcast with some NFL bettors this past week, and
Hmm.
I admired. I'm not gonna say who, but I admired
Okay.
for when they went game to game. They got right into it. They talk about their bets, and they can be done in 30 seconds, 60 seconds at most. And they're not talking about players and this and that and stats. They're just giving their opinion on the betting line.
How did
And there
those
were
bets win? How did those bets do?
Well, there was a
I'm
bunch of different
joking.
people.
I'm joking.
There was a bunch of
I'm
different
joking.
people, but various results. Anyway, there were
Mhm.
times when I was throughout the Martian MMA podcast history, where I would really get into detail and like want to prove how much I like studied and knew these guys. But I'm past that at this point. It's get to the bets. Like if you're not betting on the fight, just get on with it. If you guys are listening to MMA podcasts where they're talking about fights for 2, 3, 4 minutes, and then at the end they go, no bet for me. Um, I probably do that here and there, but just talk about the bets, guys. There's 450 UFC fights a year. You're not going to bet on a lot of them. Let's just like sometimes you just got to get it out of the way. Okay, shitty fight. Not going to bet on this one. Get on with it. And I'm gonna work on striving to do that even more. But a good
You
change
heard
we've
it
had
here
on the
first.
podcast. Yeah, a good change we've had on the podcast lately is starting things from the top, the main event going down. I like this change. Ozzy won again, reluctant at first. It was a good suggestion by Ozzy. I like what we're doing now.
The fuck
Uh,
Mary Kill. I'm
right, right.
EP. I am the EP.
No,
I am
let's
the
not get
EP.
too far here. Let's not get too far. I still
All
have
right.
the rights. And
Update my contract.
Right, okay, we can do that, we can do that, we're starting things off in the lightweight division, in the main event, Grant Dawson's first UFC main event, Bobby Green's second UFC main event. First one didn't go so well for him, and this fight is lined at -425 for Grant Dawson, Bobby Green +325. I don't know if it's remiss. I would be remiss if you didn't start this one,
Yes,
so
yes.
go ahead and
Perfect.
give us your thoughts.
Perfect. So Grant Dawson, he comes into this fight. I think his record in the UFC now is 8-0-1. So you had that one draw against Rick Glenn. Um and obviously very strong grappler, great takedowns in the open space, has good cage work, and will latch onto the body triangle at a moment's notice. So he's done it consistently versus very high level fighters. But I do think that here in a fighter against in the fight against Bobby Green, it is a different kind of test because Bobby Green is such a veteran, has been in there with teammates of his like Thiago Moises, and all up and down the spectrum of different styles of fighters. Has been deep in fights and is known for being high volume. So I do think that potentially early on the movement of Bobby Green maybe makes Grant a little bit more timid or a little slower into going for the takedown. Right. Some of the things that you mentioned often, where a guy's first main event, Bobby Green, kind of his first main event because the last one started so short notice that maybe they're conserving the energy, thinking that they could go into the fourth and fifth rounds. So I can see that being the case, but I do think that Bobby is going to respect Grant's wrestling. So I don't really see him being extremely forward and aggressive, uncorking a bunch of shots. Because I felt that when he did that against Drew Dober, I do think that he slowed down. Like that pace that he put out there in that first round, I believe it was too high, and it caused him to end up being on the back foot and eventually get caught with a big punch. So we've seen his chin crack there, and then we've seen his ground game get exploited versus Islam. So I do think that Grant has every opportunity and every skill needed to win this fight. I just think that he needs to be a little bit more when he gets his good position, similar to how he did against Ismagulov, be more decisive and be more aggressive with whether it be laying down ground and pound or going for the submission, either or. but I really don't want to see him getting this body triangle, holding these positions for long durations of rounds. And then, we got to get up in in the third round. We got to get up in the fourth round, and we got to do it again. Because every time, with a guy as cerebral and as experienced as Bobby Green, he's gonna start seeing the tells. He's gonna start seeing, okay, you're looking to only get this takedown, or you're going to the back on this, whatever it is. So it's going to get more difficult, in my opinion, I think. But Grant Dawson is the alpha, he is the omega, and I think he's still gonna win this fight. Um, for me, in terms of the betting line, I'm not really gonna bet his money line. I feel here I've won literally every UFC fight except the Julian Erosa fight, because that fight was like his contender fight as well. I've won on the guy. So I think I'm good to be off of it here. Maybe come in on a live bet opportunity here. Maybe after the first round, maybe some Bobby Green fans feel maybe good after he doesn't get taken down in the first round or whatever. If he has some success, anti-success, whatever it is, maybe we could pounce on a little bit of a live line, even though I am saying that I don't want to see him in a long, drawn-out fight. But the pick for me is Grant Dawson still. I do think maybe potentially this fight goes a little bit later than maybe some people expect. But Grant Dawson is good enough that he can flip everything, on his head like that with a submission or a good grappling sequence. So I'll probably stay off this fight, back out of it, and just root for Dawson to get the win.
Yeah, it's a shame the market has finally, realized how good Grant Dawson is. We got him as an underdog versus his Magulov now, over 80% versus Bobby Green. So, money line wise, I think it's pass on both sides because I think the fight's going to go poorly for Bobby early on. I just don't see Bobby stopping these takedowns in the small cage. I mean, Bobby has had so many fights against grapplers, and you can generally say that he has good defensive wrestling, but he has just had too many close moments against guys like Clay Guida, Alan Patrick, Thiago Moises. Those fights weren't that long ago, and he got taken down. He got put against the cage. He spent a lot of time defending takedowns in those fights. And I think if he's in a position where his back is to the cage and he's defending takedowns, I just don't see him stopping the takedowns of Grant Dawson. Now, I am going to go agree with some of the stuff that Ozzy said about the fight going long. I do kind of subscribe to my method about the fight going long. Grant Dawson's first main event. It shocked me how quickly Islam Makhachev, just finished that fight. Right, he got in a dominant position. He let his hands go. Boom, it was over. I don't see that same thing happening here. I think that Grant probably will get some dominant positions early, but it just seems like he's very conservative with his energy, and he looks to hold on and to backpack you. And I think that that's what he'll probably do here early on. He'll get off to an early lead, and I could see it getting risky in the third and fourth and fifth round. But I still think that Grant will win the fight. And I think the fight going long is the way to play it. I'm looking at starts round 3 at minus 175 here. I think that's pretty good, man. I do because I don't see
What
Bobby
was it?
finishing.
Plus what? What did you say? What was the
No,
price?
minus 175 for starts
Minus
round 3,
175.
then
Sweet, sweet.
minus 105 for starts 4. Yeah, I think, I might ladder this one of starts 3, 4, 5 decision because I think Green is tough enough to survive. I think that he's positionally aware enough not to get, rear naked choked. And I do think that Bobby maybe, slightly on the decline a little bit, but I still think he's got enough left in the tank that he's not going to just get flat out, destroyed on the mat here like he did versus Islam. So I'm looking to play the fight going long. Starts 3, 4, 5 in decision, and I do imagine Grant wins the fight via dominant decision. Maybe he drops one of the last rounds, but don't see Bobby winning the fight. So next fight is the fight with a very similar odds here, but I think this one is a lot more competitive than the main event. The co-main event, Joe Pyfer taking on Abdul Razak Al-Hassan in the premier division of the UFC, the middleweight division, minus 450 for Joe Pyfer, Al-Hassan plus 350. So Pyfer has definitely looked improved lately, and I think he probably has not shown his full potential as a fighter so far. But in the fights that we've seen of him, I think he's kind of like a mid to low volume striker, right? Where he's looking to find that big right hand. He has wrestling capabilities, but it doesn't seem like he wants to use them. It seems like his main game is boxing, and he definitely falls in love with the knockout a little bit. He definitely isn't a guy who's going to land 30, 40 strikes around and break you down. He's that guy who's very patient and looking for that one big right hand that's going to put you out. But I think that Razak kind of has a similar style where he's not a high volume striker. He's a power hitter, and also similar. He has that judo background, can take fights to the floor, but it's definitely not his plan A. So I think while the fight's on the feet, they're both gonna be mirroring each other a little bit. It's gonna be low volume. They're both gonna be looking to land that big shot. Either guy could do it. Obviously, Pyfer more likely. He's significantly younger. I think what 12 years younger or something. Abdul, sneakily 38 years old. You wouldn't know that because he doesn't fight too often. But the guy's old as shit.
So
Um, so 11-year age difference for Pyfer in what should be a striking fight. So he should be much quicker. And but, guys, there's so much still unknown about Pyfer that I think that putting him at over 80% versus, a capable power puncher here is kind of crazy. I mean, not to do the whole compare lines game, but we're less than a year removed from or a year removed from Alan Amadovsky being the same line. And Amadovsky is one of the worst fighters to ever fight in the UFC. And now Razak, who's not good, but he's decent, I would say. I think is getting disrespected at plus 350 here. So I think Razak is definitely worth a small bet on his money line here. And before I pass it over to you, if this fight gets into the second and third round, Ozzy, who do you imagine will have the advantage if it goes there?
Joe Pyfer, dude. Joe Pyfer.
Well, don't forget that Abdul Razak Al-Hassan took round 3 off of Buckley not that long ago. He for
All right.
the first
Well,
time in
that's
his career, he actually won a round 3.
Do you
So,
realize, Martian, that Al Razak Al Hassan has literally never won a fight outside of round one?
no, that's actually a lie. Last fight, Claudio Ribeiro
Oh, excuse
knockout
me.
round
Oh, right. It
2.
was 28 seconds into the second round.
Knockout round 2.
That
But
didn't
but
count.
it is worth noting that 2 of those decisions he lost were split decisions, so they were toss-ups.
Listen, for sure. Now, the thing is, Buckley is a 170 pounder. So, and I feel like some of the grappling defense for Buckley at certain points, like I just feel like that was a weird fight. Like I don't know what was going on in that fight. I felt like Buckley should have easily been able to beat him. And he just made it closer. And obviously they we're back and forth a little bit there. Now, what I just like here is honestly, I do think this fight could go into the second round. So, starts round two, they're making it plus money on FanDuel. It looks like it got hit maybe once or twice. But I'm obviously not playing the money line here. But I kind of like Pyfer by submission potentially because I would think that maybe Al Al Hassan feels some of the power, maybe looks to use some of his judo, some of the takedowns that he used on Buckley. And Joe Pyfer does have a submission game. He has a legit submission game. So you're giving me
Mm.
close to 6-1. He has a submission game, dude. You're giving 6-1, 550. I think that's not that bad. Because we could see club and sub as well. Because Al Razak himself, he hasn't really been knocked out. He's only been knocked out. He got knocked out by Chaos right away in round one. So you could definitely see a time where he gets stunned, he goes in for shooting the takedown, going for a clinch or something like that, and he runs into a Pyfer guillotine or a choke or a rear naked. Who knows? Who knows what happens? But I kind of like that. You
I
don't
don't think
agree.
he has a
You're
I
not a
don't think he
believer.
has a submission game.
He almost submitted
He
GM3
he
by
rest
guillotine.
he wrestled in high school.
I mean, and when I'm saying that, guys, I mean they had a Fury grappling match, so he
Right,
almost
right.
guillotined him.
I mean, I think I just he's definitely just like an athletic wrestler who, transitioned that into learning a little bit of jujitsu.
I'm
And I
sorry.
wouldn't
We should add the caveat that you've seen Joe Pyfer up close and personal, correct?
Sure.
You've seen his ground game up close.
Yeah, he's a nice
So
guy. I've had conversations with him.
yeah, I know. I'm saying, but you're not as high on his submission threats. So,
No,
but
I
I'm
never trained with him,
okay.
but
I
yeah.
I know you mean. But either way, I think that's the only angle that I potentially like of the fight. Maybe it going into the second round. But if I'm playing a little bit of a long shot prop, it would be
So
Pyfer by
you're not
submission.
interested in Razak money line at all?
Not really. He's short,
Do
stubby.
do you think that Pyfer's, like, popularity and being, like, the Dana White privilege is playing a factor into him being over 80% here?
I mean, but people faded Al-Razak against fucking Claudio Ribeiro, dude. Do you remember that?
Not me.
Not you, not me either. But there was people on the other side. I mean, I
I
guess
I
I
tweeted
I'll
I
be
tweeted, "I am excited to bet on Abdul Razak Alhassan this week," and he fucked him up. Not only
there
won
you
the
go.
first round, knocked him out in the second.
There you go. So I was not excited to bet this fight. So that's where I came out on it. Maybe it's going up, dude. I mean, 350. I mean, yeah, it's getting interesting. It's a big line for no doubt about it. But if the script is Joe Pyfer wins, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Alright, enough about that one. Moving on to the welterweight division, Alex Morono taking on Joaquin Buckley here. Odds for this one have Buckley -175, Morono +150. Back to you to start this one off in the welterweight division.
This is a fight that I do have a wager on, and I am excited about. I do like both of these guys. Alex Morono, he's been okay to me, but when he lost to Santiago after being up 2-0, that one really hurt because I was kind of big on him in that fight. But this guy's a vet. He's almost has 20 fights in the UFC. Um, I'm not gonna say he's extremely well rounded because he's really not. A lot of his fights they kind of like unwind in like a weird way where you would think that the other guy has maybe like a grappling or a wrestling advantage, but they never try to wrestle him, and then he's at the end of at range, just kind of boxing with people. Because if you look at Morono in his last 3 fights, I think he's not thrown one leg kick, and I think if you go back like 5 or 6 fights, it might be like 1 or 2 leg kicks. So he's not really a kicker. Buckley's definitely gonna have the kick advantage. Buckley's gonna have the speed advantage. Buckley's gonna have the blackness advantage. Buckley's gonna have probably the cardio advantage as well. I'm actually high on Buckley, very very much so. In regards to, I don't really think a lot of people want to fight this guy, especially at this 170-pound division. But punch kick wise, stand up wise, I just like Buckley how he moves in the pocket. He's pretty elusive overall. And Morono, his strikes that he throws is just really like a jab. So a lot of times when he's missing with his jab, he's kind of like trying to, throw like hooks and punches like with his feet going all over the place as he's trying to like move away because he missed and he's anticipating a counter. And I just feel it's bad news with Buckley. This guy's always on his toes. I'm talking about Morono. And I feel that it's going to be easy for Buckley to either blitz him and go for takedowns or land big shots while they're in the pocket. Buckley actually keeps his hands super high. He moves his torso pretty well as he's evading these punches. And like I said with Morono, his repertoire is not that huge in terms of things that he uses, in terms of his punches and stuff like that. And some of the guys that he's fought, like Matt Semmelsberger, um, what's it called? Tim Means. Like Tim Means is low key winning that fight. That's why I was high on Tim Means in this past weekend because Tim Means is winning, and he just kind of got caught in that guillotine. But I don't really think that's gonna happen from Joaquin. Joaquin is actually pretty good at when he's shooting for takedowns, keeping good control, right, going up to underhooks. If the guy does do a get up, and Morono doesn't really have an offensive submission game from on bottom, albeit he did finish his last fight by submission. So I really like Joaquin Buckley in this spot. At -150, I put down a wager on him. I think it's -170 now. I think that's a totally fine price as well. So I'm pretty confident in him. His decision line is maybe a little bit interesting here, but I just think that his chin should hold up against Alex Morono. Morono is good with it. If he could land his jab and follow with the right hand, he's going to be in this fight. But I think that's going to be very difficult for him, on the outside. And I think that Joaquin has a ton of advantages here. So I really like him this weekend. And I like basically all bets on him other than the inside the distance. There's no reason to do that, or the KO line, I mean. So I like him money line and or by decision.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the strategy I've done on Buckley before, and it's been maybe marginally profitable at best. But that's playing the fight to go long because I know this guy has a lot of knockouts. He has specifically 4 knockouts in the second round in the UFC alone. But I think his fighting style is actually a little different than just like a total knockout artist. If you watch his fights, he circles a lot. He does a lot of,
Hmm.
of lateral movement. He darts in and out of the pocket. And I think that, he definitely catches guys and hurts them, but I don't think that he's, the type of guy who just sits down in the pocket and throws bombs at guys until they fall. He's pretty strategic with his in and out movement. And I think that Morono is a bit similar as well. He doesn't like to engage in the pocket. He likes to skirt around the outside and throw distance strikes. And I think that's what we're going to see from both guys. Is both guys are going to be using movement. They're going to be coming in and out of the pocket, exchanging strikes. And I think that I'm gonna play the fight to go long, because I like the prices on it, especially Buckley decision. Plus 550 on that on DraftKings right now. I really like that. I'll add some goes the distance as well. And I think I'll throw in some starts round 3 as well at plus money. Uh, even though our boy Buckley's got several round 2 knockouts, honestly, the price on starts round 2 minus 225. I mean, guys, Buckley last fight landed 10 strikes versus Andre Fiallo in the first round. Like
He was
he
very
takes
patient in that fight. He was
he
very
takes a
patient.
yeah, I mean, generally, that's what he
Mhm.
does, and the Curtis fight wasn't a super high tempo, like,
I mean, he
he
was throwing a
generally
lot of strikes at Curtis. He was.
he
But
was,
but this is the
then he got
thing. Buckley has a huge range of how he can fight. And I think that's against a guy like Alex Morono, that's exactly what you want. Because he can come out and like you said in that Curtis fight, he was kind of throwing a little bit too much, I would say. That's why he got caught with the counter. But against Andre Fiallo, he was like, all right, like I'm gonna just, I'm gonna wait. But every time he threw, you knew he was throwing. And Andre Fiallo was kind of intimidated, I feel. So yeah, go ahead. You can finish.
and, Morono, I think he generally is a better fighter than the market gives him credit for, but the fact that he managed to botch that Ponzinibbio fight, man, is this guy. I wouldn't want to be betting on this guy anytime soon. I mean, he rocked Ponzinibbio in every round, and then he still managed to get knocked out in the third round there. And with Ponzinibbio has been looking pretty dreadful the past 2 or 3 years. So the fact that he managed to lose that fight was pretty bad, and I just can't trust him. Um, both guys get hit. Both guys have been wobbled and dropped and knocked out before, but I still like the fight to go long. Another bad thing for the fight going long is I really don't see either guy grappling here. It's pretty unlikely that the guys grapple. I guess Buckley
Buckley
could hit with
Buckley
some
will
takedowns.
shoot. Buckley will shoot a takedown here, at least one.
You think that would be good?
Yeah.
It would kill some clock because I don't see Buckley providing like a finish threat on the ground. So
Buckley
hopefully,
was working his jujitsu with B Team in Austin a little bit. I think he will mix this fight up with punches, kicks, clinch, takedown. It could end up being a close fight, so I'm not gonna go pot committed on the money line. That's why I want some of that decision exposure, and I think I maybe want to over or goes the distance as well. But I feel pretty strong about that position as a whole, getting us in the green.
nice. Me too. Starts 3, GTD and Buck decision for me on this one. That's going to move us along to another fight with a big favorite here in Drew Dober taking on Rick Glenn. We have Drew Dober minus 425, Rick Glenn plus 325. So 3 of the top 4 fights here, all in the minus 400 range. That's never too fun. But another fight where I think the favorite is probably getting overvalued here. We know Drew Dober, amazingly entertaining fighter throughout his entire career, but I think we're starting to see him slow down a little bit. I mean, the guy who had been known for being just notoriously durable, finally got knocked out in his last fight. It says he's been knocked out before that too, but I don't think that was in the UFC. I think that was like 10, 15 years ago or something. Yeah. But I mean, he's had 20 fights in the UFC and just got knocked out for the first time. And just that shot that Frivola hit him with, I mean, he just doesn't look as quick in these exchanges lately. I think his speed is dropping and obviously the chin as well. So not like Rick Glenn provides a big speed or power threat himself, but I just think that it's kind of clear that Drew is starting to slow down a little bit after all these crazy fights and wars that he's been in. So that alone makes him at minus 400, not stick out as a good bet to me. Rick Glenn, on the other hand, might also be banging that same drum with looking a little bit old, but he was knocked out for the first time in his last fight, first time in 30 MMA fights where he got knocked out. I lost on that one significantly. Played Glenn, and Glenn no scorecards there, but he just got caught with the punch early on here. Maybe his chin is done, and maybe Drew makes easy work of him. But for Rick Glenn, a guy with 30 MMA fights, being knocked out one time, they have Drew Dober knockout at minus 185. They think it's 65% likely that Drew Dober knocks him out here. I think that line is terrible. So I gotta find some way to play opposite of that. Whether I might just look. I think DraftKings has not ITD lines. Like you can probably get like Drew Dober not to win ITD at like plus 150 or something. So I'm hoping for maybe Glenn to make it competitive and to somehow stretch to a decision or somehow. But the only way I could see playing the fight is fading that KO line on Dober, because I just think that line is no good. So, well, what are you thinking?
Yeah, man. A bit intriguing here. We got two southpaws, veterans, guys that have over 30 fights here. Rick Glenn. It was surprising to me that he got knocked out in his last fight. I do think that is kind of like seeping into the market here, because I think we're about 6 months from that knockout, more or less, or 4 months. I'm not sure. And people kind of feel that, hey, Dober just throws bombs. He's gonna be able to knock this guy out. I mean, if you look at Dober's last 4 fights, they've all finished inside the distance. If you look at his last bunch of fights that were in the apex, they all finished, right? So the Alex-Hernandez fight finish, and then the McKinney, Bobby Green, and those fights. So he definitely puts the foot on the gas. But I feel that Rick's kind of like that unassuming, kind of like a fighter character. Like he's maybe a little longer than you think when you fight in there with him. He's obviously tall. Not that that's been a big issue for Drew in the past, but I just feel that there is a big like, not likelihood, but there's a very much of a possibility that this fight unwinds in a way where Rick Glenn is very competitive in it. Now I don't really think I want to invest in it, but I do think this could be a potentially good live bet fight, because both guys have good cardio, I would say, and I just feel that both of them historically have been pretty durable. Even with each of them getting knocked out in their last fight. So you giving me, I mean, 7-1 on Rick Glenn to win by inside the distance. I don't know. To be honest, I look at this fight, all the betting lines don't make that much sense to me. So maybe that means I should pass, but it probably means I should pounce. So we'll see. I'll go into this week a little bit more. Like his Rick Glenn's 3.5 point spread is plus 205. That's pretty crazy to me, because I really don't think that is necessarily a fact, a given, that Dober's gonna be clubbing him and knocking him out, because Rick Glenn is tough. So I'm gonna inspect the fight a little bit more. I probably will end up on some kind of prop here, maybe a over 1.5. I mean, if 2.5 is plus 190, over 1.5, I don't see any books with that. But over 1.5 or starts round two should be at least a decent bet. What starts round two? It is.
It's probably got to be even money, right?
Not
Oh,
even.
it's
I'm not even
minus.
seeing it.
It says minus 165 here.
That's not that bad, honestly. But over 1.5 is probably kind of like a even money or so if they do price it. So maybe some of that, because yeah. But those are my initial thoughts on that fight.
Right. All right, that's going to move us along to the last fight on the main card, the first fight on the
Hmm.
main card, actually. In the featherweight division, we got Bill Algeo taking on Alex Hernandez. Odds for this one have Algeo as the favorite, minus 145, Hernandez plus 125. Your turn to start this one off.
Another week, another Bill Algeo fight week. So we got the 69 GOAT, the king of what is it, Persia? The king of
Pressure.
Persia, whatever it is, CFFC's very own, Pennsylvania's finest, Bill Algeo, Mr. Perfecto. And I like this matchup. I think this is a fun fight here. I was kind of skeptical Alex Hernandez coming back again to the 145 weight class, especially. I think his last fight is against Miller, right? He didn't fight. He hasn't
Yeah,
fought since then.
155.
Yeah, I don't think he has been scheduled either. So I was kind of thinking that maybe he just, that ass whooping he took against Billy Q was bad. So I felt like maybe this guy just gonna hang it up, not hang up like going back down there. And I'll be honest, I was high on Alex Hernandez when he first came into UFC. He beat millionaire Alex or OAM pretty easily. He gave he knocked out Benny Dariush. He gave a few good accounts of himself, but since then it's been underperformance after underperformance. He's only really been able to beat guys like Gritzmacher and Breeden. The other fights are, I will say, high level fights, right? Like or higher tier fights. But he's been finished in all of them, and or except the Moises fight, but he just kind of soft cocked and totally wilted in that fight. But here against Bill, it's gonna probably go like most of his fights go. Now the thing with Bill is he's a little bit longer. I feel he's got more of that Muay Thai fight style, right? He's throwing teeps, he's throwing a lot of chopping leg kicks, he's working behind the jab. Not that similar to Billy Q, who is more of a glove sniffer in a good way. Like he's keeping his hands up, he's trying to come inside and kind of uncork punches. So in the clinch, I feel Bill should have a decent advantage as the fight wears on. He does have sometimes some good takedowns from the clinch and striking from there, right? He's got good knees that come up the middle. But I do think this should be a close fight. I do think this is going to be potentially a very good live betting fight because I feel that Hernandez, he has to change his fight style somewhat. He hit Billy Q a lot, but I don't think he's going to be hitting Bill as much as he was hitting Billy Q. And then if he tries to grapple, I don't know if that's really good for his gas tank. So this is a fight where I lean Bill. I'm a little biased. I know Bill, I'm friendly with him. I lean Bill to win this fight, but I kind of don't want to lay the 40 cents, 45 cents on him here. And I really don't want to take too much of a finish prop either because, hands wise, he's not really a big hitter overall. So I actually do think this fight could maybe go the distance. But I kind of like this fight just more as a live angle. Like I feel like everybody is aware, but I say that and Billy Q after round one last time, albeit he got beat up, was like plus 180. And I was just
Bigger. I bet him plus
jamming.
265.
That might have been like towards the end of round one. I remember after round one finished, I saw like 180, 185, and I was jamming. Or maybe that was my average. I don't know, but it won easily, dude. So it's a tricky fight, though. I feel like the fight could go both ways. I do feel Alex could potentially hurt Bill maybe with a shot early because Bill's a little bit of a slow starter. But Bill's a dog, man. This guy is hard to submit. He's hard to knock out. He's hard to hurt. He broke it. I think he would have beat Andre Fili, honestly, if he didn't break his arm. So I just think overall Bill's a really good fighter. I do think people will probably see the line and say that they think that Alex is better or they think it's disrespectful. But I don't really see it that way. I think it's going to be very hard for Alex to knock out Bill. And from there, I think that Bill just starts chopping away. He knows the game plan. He knows what to do with a fight like this. But I think it's an intriguing fight, I love that it's the main card opener.
Yeah, full disclosure, don't have like an official bet on this one. The ones that interest me in the pre-fight window are Bill no scorecards minus 115, just because he's so fucking tough and durable and hard to finish that I just don't see Bill getting finished here. Uh, he can just take a punch. He ate, big punches from TJ Brown. He ate head kicks from Andre Fili. The guy can just take a beating and keep on ticking. So I don't see Hernandez finishing him here. And also, um, I'm gonna do what I talked about in the fight in the beginning, where I'm gonna talk about the fight even though I don't have a bet on it. But I do agree with Ozzy that the live bet angle is obviously the best on Bill here. I mean, Bill is kind of a notorious slow starter in the first round here, but round two is this guy's the fucking king of round two. He's fought. I did a little digging this week, right? He's fought 7 times in the UFC. All 7 fights have gone into the second round. 5 of those rounds, we know the scorecards. He won 13 out of 15 rounds on the judges' scorecards in round two. And the 2 fights that didn't, he finished both those guys in round two, Herbert Burns and TJ Brown. So he's really only lost round two 1 time, and that's to Ricardo Ramos, which we're not going to talk about, but that's not aging well. Anyway, so that's just like his MO. He fights with his hands down. It's not really a good style for early on because he doesn't have the timing, the speed of a fight. When his opponent is still at their freshest and quickest, they're going to be landing on Bill. So if Hernandez comes out here aggressively, throwing hands like he did versus Billy Q, I think he's going to land on Bill, and he's probably going to land, some significant punches. I just don't think he's going to put Bill away. Now, getting over to Hernandez, like Ozzy was saying, he's got to change up his style. You don't know what to make of him. This guy has 2 modes where he either just goes ham in round one and looks for the round one knockout, or he fights like a pussy like he did against Moises and Trinaldo. And even Jim Miller was a much more measured approach. So
even
I
Drew
think
Dober, he was running away from Drew Dober after.
no, he was
not too long.
blitzing him. Well,
Yeah, but he started running away after. But then
Yeah.
Drew Dober and let him. He finished him. That's what I'm saying. Like, but Moy says he was fighting too. Then he just totally shelled.
Yeah. And you also alluded to this, the takedowns. I think if he wrestles Bill, I think it's an amazing thing for Bill. I mean, if you see Hernandez wrestling in this fight, I honestly would be even more inclined to bet Bill live because Hernandez isn't going to do shit to Bill on top. He might keep him down for a little bit, but there's no way that he's submitting Bill. I don't see him landing much ground and pound. I don't even see him controlling Bill for very long. And the takedowns just zap Hernandez's gas tank. So I think if Hernandez is wrestling here, it's bad for him. I think if Hernandez gets out to a big round one early lead, it's bad for him. The only way I see Hernandez winning this fight is fighting in the ways where I called him a pussy, where he's very patient and he's conserving gas. Because guys, this is at 145. He's fought at 145 one time before. He had a great round one. He beat up Billy Q. He was death gassed in the second round. So, I don't think the guy's a complete moron. I think he's gonna be able to you know, compartmentalize this and think, okay, my last time I went ham, I gassed out. This time I got to be more patient. I just fought Jim Miller. I was really patient. I won 30-27. So I do think we're going to see a more measured approach from Hernandez here. And that really makes me question how this fight's going to go. I don't know how Bill is going to react if Hernandez is patient. So me before the fight, the bet I like the best is Bill no scorecards. But I'm really going to be looking at the tempo of the fight to figure out my live bet here. So remember, if Hernandez is going ham or wrestling in round one, look to slam Bill live. If it's a tentative mid-volume striking fight, I don't know who's going to win, and I think it could be a split decision for either guy here. So let's hope Hernandez comes out hot. Let's hope he gets off to an early lead. He's beating up Bill in round one. Everyone thinks he's winning. He's minus 250, 300 in the live lines. And then we can pounce on the king of
The
round two, Bill
the
Algeo, once again.
the Bill round 2, round 3 props are disgusting. The round 3 prop is it makes me
What is
so
that,
angry.
plus 800?
Yeah, 800.
Yeah.
It makes me angry.
That is not good.
The no scorecards though is a good bet. I like that one.
Right. Because I don't know, bro. Bill, the same thing with Hernandez's energy. Like he just he just used all that energy versus Billy Q, and he didn't finish him. So he's probably going to be thinking to himself,
It
"Hey,
makes
if
sense
I
then.
get a
Yeah.
guy hurt, I'm not going to go crazy." So
It
I'm
makes
a
sense. It
probably
makes and if you think about it, if you lay the juice, the chalk on Bill, and Hernandez wins the decision, you just feel so dumb. You're like, fuck, like you're just like like that just hurts. It's like an arrow. It's like like that shouldn't have happened.
yeah.
Um, but with the no scorecards, you get a refund, obviously.
I do think if the fight goes the distance, it somehow actually does favor Hernandez, even though there's no proof that he has good gas tank at 145. I think if it somehow goes the distance, I would put him as the favorite to win the decision. Uh, so yeah, has Bill won a decision in the? Yeah, he beat Carlisle,
He'd be
but
Brito. He'd be Brito by
oh, that's
decision.
right, that's right. Those are both pretty clear. Um, so anyway, but even when he wins decisions, he gets dominant positions, he gets back takes, he puts it on guys. So
Bill's the man, dude. Bill's a fucking man.
it does. So
Hopefully he just crushes freaking Alex Hernandez in the first round, dude.
I don't see that
That's what
happening,
I'm
but
hoping for.
I was a little surprised to see
I
Bill
will
the
see.
favorite here, but then it also is a guy with proven really good cardio at 145 versus a guy with proven bad cardio in his one fight. So
Bill's got another baby on the way.
is that true?
Yeah.
I don't even think I knew that. Anyway, we're into the prelims now. We'll probably spend some less time on these fights. First one, light heavyweight division, Felipe Lins, Ion Cutelaba. Odds for this one, minus 150 Cutelaba, Lins plus 130. Kutalaba's probably going to take him down early. He comes out like a bat out of hell in every fight. He either fucks you up in round one and finishes you, or he gasses out. It's a proven trend. And, I gotta kind of lean with the Lens side at the current price, but also I think you could just wait for live bets, man. I mean, obviously Cutelaba fights have a pretty steep flip when he starts gassing out. He quits pretty quickly. But I think Lens will probably struggle early on with just the pure aggression of Cutelaba. We also haven't seen Lens fight many wrestlers. I mean, his past several fights have been all strikers, all low volume, mid-level strikers. Bosser, Arlovsky, Prochnio, OSP, Grishin. None of those guys really wrestle. So we don't know how he's going to do. He's 38. He hasn't fought a wrestler in a really long time. I think wait on the live bet, see how he's doing. If Cutelaba is getting his takedowns, but he's not accomplishing much with them. He's gonna fucking gas out. So, Lin's live for me here. Maybe Lin's 2-3. But that's kind of just the way to play all Cutelaba fights. So it's kind of a pretty basic approach I'm taking to this one. But what are you thinking here?
Right on. Yeah, so I like Philippe or Phil Lins here. Shout out Phil Lins. I mean, if you look at Kutalaba's resume, right, obviously he fought a lot of killers. He fought a lot of the top of the division, but he's also like just done dumb stuff, like get rear naked choked by Johnny Walker, or run into a guillotine against Ryan Spann, and that's the only way Ryan Spann can beat him. And if you look at his overall fight career, he's only won a fight outside of round one 3 times in his life. All right. Obviously, Devin Clark, he wrestled him, he was elbowing him, stuff like that. But with Phil, obviously, I think that the over under is lying here at 1.5. And I think what side is the juice side? Under is 130 or something like that, right, Martian? Can you check that for me as I go? But if Lins is, I'm just walking around pacing. Oh, if Lins is, if Cutelaba is winning this fight, it's gonna be early, right? Like I just feel that Lins sometimes he is. If you look at both, I'm not a big stat guy, but if you look at Philippe Lins's stats, he's not great defensively. And when you see it when he's fighting, because he's a little open when he starts looking to uncork shots. So I can see either guy dropping each other early on. But I do think that Philippe Lins has a big advantage with the hands. I think he's got a cardio advantage. And that, in terms of grappling, I do think that Philippe Lins is pretty well trained in terms of jujitsu, get-ups, underhooks, being able to give Cutelaba a hard time keeping him down, because Cutelaba is good and aggressive with the takedowns, but grappling wise, like jujitsu wise, is not the best. Like he's not very technical. He's just really looking to steamroll you. And if he's kind of like he's a kind of square peg round hole guy. Like for example, against Dustin Jacoby, we had Dustin Jacoby against the fence, right? He's just hitting him, punching him, punching him, punching him, punching him. It's like, dude, maybe you put in a hook, maybe you try to put him on all the way on his back. Maybe you look to really get on top of him. But he doesn't really have a big bag of tricks, is I think what I'm mostly getting at. While Lins, he kind of calf kicks sometimes. He's got a good jab. He's got a long reach for the division. He looks like he's potentially, on a different diet. And he's a jiu-jitsu black belt, and he's a former heavyweight. So I think there's a lot of advantages on the Lins side, but the line has steamed over to the Cutelaba side. So I think maybe the under could have some value here, because I do think these boys are looking to get busy, but I just don't trust Ian Cutelaba. So I like Lins. Anything better than plus 110, honestly. Like so I think now you can get plus 130. I got a small bet in on. I got like a 1 unit on like 120, 125, but I added at 135. So I think this is a good bet. It could lose early, similar to the Ramos fight, or we could dominate and win pretty cleanly. But we're getting that plus money side. I definitely think that's where we want to be.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I could be naive trying to wait for live here, but Cutelaba is kind of a guy proven
How
to have
good
one.
could it be? Like, how good of a line are they gonna really give you? Like,
No, they
honestly.
give them. It could go up big time. But I mean, Cutelaba is kind of proven to have 1 round of gas, and he's 60% to win a fight when it's we're going to be 1 round of gas. So, like you said,
Yeah,
if you
exactly.
take it, you take it. If it loses in round 1, so be it. But if it
If
gets
you
to round
remember
2,
the Kennedy fight, when we called the Kennedy to rock his world, I think Kennedy was a bigger favorite after round 1 than he was going into the fight.
I don't remember that. It's possible though.
It's a fact.
I don't know about that. Your
It is.
memory is not that good.
No, it's true.
I'll pull up the logs. Next fight, women's strawweight division, Karolina Kowalkiewicz-Belbita. Odds for this one, Karolina minus 163, Belbita plus 143. You guys know me, notorious hater of women's mixed martial arts, but not Karolina Kowalkiewicz fights, yo. I
No,
fucking
sir.
love Karolina. I'm gonna just start it off, even though it's not my
Go
turn.
ahead, go
But
ahead.
we laying juice on Karolina here, guys. This is something I've advised against for a long time. Karolina, no juice on women's MMA. Every now and then, it's a good thing, and I think this is the spot to do it. You got to pick and choose here. Karolina, to me, is just better everywhere. Better distance, clinch, and grappler. Certainly a better grappler. I mean, Belbita is a horrible grappler wrestler. Can't get off her back really. And I think that Carolina comes in looking to hit takedowns here. I think she's going to look a massive favorite. If the fight stays standing on the feet, I don't love it for Carolina because Belbita is 10 years younger or older, excuse me. Belbita does, throw out a lot of spammy volume strikes, and she could win the fight if it stays a pure kickboxing match. But I trust Carolina to mix in the clinch, to mix in the takedown. She's been approaching her opponents pretty smart stylistically lately. Exposing their weaknesses versus Gomez and Demopoulos. And I think she's gonna do so again. Herrig, dominated that fight. I mean, Carolina went through a really rough patch where she was fighting the top level women and she was getting destroyed. She took a year or two away. She reinvented herself, and she's honestly looked really good in her last 3 fights. I think she's covered her price tag and then some. I've won on her in a lot of those fights, and I'm gonna do it again here. I'm gonna lay the juice uncharacteristically on a women's MMA fight, and Carolina is just a total babe, one of the sexiest women in MMA. Shout out my boy Joey Coco, and that's enough. What are you thinking about this one?
Splendid, splendid. So we're familiar with both these girls because I'll say that I end up betting both of these girls' fights very often. So we won on we won on Belbita last time in her last fight. I think we both picked that, and I am on I think on Carolina fights. I'm on a 4-5 win streak. So including her loss against Panay, which I called that she was gonna get submitted. Since then, I've been riding this girl, and I was kind of on the fence with it, the age difference, this and that. I'm thinking about it. Some of the Carolina on the feet. Sometimes I feel she looks a little slow with her hands. And Belbita throws, but nah, fuck that. Because I was just thinking, I'm like, well, even if I do think that Belbita on the feet, maybe she could do stuff. Does she have power? I'm looking at her knockouts, dude. If you look at any of the girls she knocked out, they're all girls with like no fights. They're like 0-3, 0-1, 0-5. She's only got a few of them, but her submission game is horrible. And the thing with Carolina is, I guess that Demopoulos fight, obviously Demopoulos, like her biggest strength was her ground game, right? But other than that, I think Carolina has had a career, like her trajectory has just changed. And she's like, wow, I could just grapple. Like I'm better grappling than all these girls. If I take the initiative, I have so much experience. I can do this. I can win. I have old woman strength. I have, real woman strength. And I think she's going to be able to do that here. Potentially could the fight get close late? It could. But guess who's won fights late in her career? Freaking Karolina Kowalkiewicz. She knows she can mix up the game, and we always like having the girl with the superior ground game when we're going into these women's fights, especially when we got a women's favorite. When on the off chance that happens. So I just feel on the feet, Carolina should be able to stay smart. She keeps her hands up, even when she starts getting clipped. She'll throw the right strikes. Like I love when fighters make the right decision. It's like a quarterback. Even if you don't have the best receivers, you need to make the right decisions, right? We can't be throwing it into double cut. We can't be doing none of that. So Carolina, same thing. She gets hit sometimes. She'll reset. She'll get back to her game plan. She'll throw the right strikes. She'll mix in the kicks, and then she'll go for the takedown. And you will hear Pahumpa say, "Carolina, I want you to do this." It's like a video game character. So I'm running with Team Pahumpa. I'm going against Romanian Canadian MMA, and the price has slimmed down a little bit, I guess. If you get maybe like a -155 in some places. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix the Carolina money line with a little bit of her decision line just to get that little added bonus. Because I do think that Belbita, even when she does get taken down, the girl will lock her legs around. She'll do that. She will try to get guard and stuff like that. So I think it's probably not easy for Carolina to submit her just because on the feet, they're going to start on the feet. And maybe, if she takes her down a few minutes into the round, maybe not that much time to work. But I am in agreement. I think that Carolina, better overall MMA fighter, fair price here. I don't think we're paying too much of a premium. So let's go with the more well-rounded girl to pick up her 4th UFC win in a row, which is really, really awesome for Carolina. But remember, she was at the top of the division, earlier on. So obviously, this is at 125. This is 115.
115.
Right? 115, right? Okay.
And if you're skeptical about betting Carolina, guys, I advise you to rewatch Belbita's most recent fight and then get back to me. So that's going to do it for that fight. We're moving on to the men's flyweight division. Nate Maness-Mendonca. Odds for this one have Mendonca -258, Maness +218. What are you thinking here?
Yeah, probably I would say, I don't want to just my least favorite fight on the card, just because one, this is at 125, correct? Right? We've confirmed that, right? Because there is
Yes.
a little bit 125. So Mendonca, I don't think he should probably be at 125, honestly. I don't know how he's gonna make it. I don't know how Nate Nuts makes it. So it's gonna pain me to see both of these guys fighting, honestly. But just not that much information on Mendonca. I think Mendonca is gonna look to grapple here. I think at some point, I think he's gonna go for a takedown here on Nate. Maybe look to finish this on the ground. I could be wrong though. What I mean, obviously the submission price is pretty good. Me saying that, I just don't really like his striking game. Like I don't really think in terms of UFC, I don't really think that's giving him a lot of knockouts. And his knockout is at plus 125. So I think that to me, crazy to me. I think much more likely that someone gets in his ear in his camp and is like, hey, let's take this guy down, let's put him on his back, and let's look for a submission. So I'm gonna right now. I didn't even know that line was that big, but I'm gonna take some submission line on Mendonca. But I just think this fight's gonna go under. That's it. So I think this fight's gonna finish. I think both guys are gonna probably get after it. I think both guys are gonna be depleted from the weight cut. And I think someone's getting finished here. So I don't hate Nate Maness. I actually don't hate his overall game. I just don't think the guy should be at 125. And I think that his grappling game is not the best if you push it. So I'm gonna do a little stab on this submission line on Mendonca, even though he did get grapple fucked in his last fight. When they zig, we zag, and I'm going with that.
Yeah, I mean, I not to disagree with the plus 1,400 because it's obviously a long shot stab, but
700. Oh, it's 1,400. Where?
but oh, that's Maness sub. Yeah, you're right,
Yeah,
700.
yeah.
But the one thing, obviously, Maness got caught versus Tagir and got tapped out. But when he got taken down versus Umar, he didn't try to get up. He like accepted defeat in that one. He didn't risk any positions. So he might just go guard, and if he's getting out grappled, he might just try not to get
Yeah,
submitted
but
like he did
the,
against
the the
Umar.
control of Umar and this guy are wait. That's what I'm
Oh,
saying. Like I just feel
yeah.
that these guys are like gonna be like two fucking cats, and they're gonna land in a grappling position. I don't think this guy's gonna dominate him grappling wise, but I just feel like there's a submission's gonna be on the table. But go ahead.
Yeah. Uh, I mean, I don't think Mendoza's any good. I think he's kind of a can crusher, right? He's only really won one fight in the past 3 years, and it was 48 seconds. He really hasn't been very active. I don't think this guy's any good. I think he's kind of a contender series victim where they found some regional bum with a good record. He got a quick knockout, which we see time and time again. And I think Mendoza really stinks. So there's no way I would put any money on Mendoza. But Maness is also kind of a corpse at 125. He has looked way worse at 125. And also in all of his UFC fights, he's got destroyed in the first round. I mean, Munoz nearly finished him in round one. Sanders had gravely dropped him and beat him up in the first round. Umar and Tagir took him down in round one. So he's just a slow starter. He takes a while to build in. I would advise to just wait on Maness here and look to live bet him. But if anybody is ballsy enough to take a stab on Maness before the fight, I don't really knock it because I really do think Mendoza stinks and should not be minus 250 versus anybody. So that's enough about that one. I agree with Ozzy. Really, mediocre, forgettable fight. We're going to move along to the women's strawweight division next. Kanako Murata taking on Vanessa-Demopoulos. Odds for this one: Murata minus 325, Demopoulos plus 275. Murata coming off a 2-year layoff, 2 years and 4 months. Also broke her arm in that Jandra Duba fight, so long layoff and all coming off an injury. Didn't even think Murata was that great to begin with, but obviously she's a decent grappler, can hit some takedowns, and has a submission threat as well. So I just think that her being minus 300, considering the layoff, considering the injury, there's no way you could play Murata minus 300. So it's Demopoulos or pass, but Demopoulos' takedown defense is not good. Her bottom game is not good. She's probably going to be like an arm bar or bust or something here, or maybe Murata gasses out or something. I don't know. This is a pass for me. Uh, just totally, totally forgettable fight. Don't think there's any angles to be bet here. What about you? You see any odds you like?
This is an odd fight. I really didn't see it coming. It's funny that Demopoulos loves going for the arm burst in the bottom and stuff like that. And this girl broke her arm in her last fight, so you're like, well, it's an interesting matchup there. But I mean, Murata, her top game looks legit. I mean, when she gets takedowns, like I like how she moves on the mat. She's a very good mat wrestler. So I feel that some of those weird positions that Demopoulos puts some girls in, like that's those stupid fucking reverse triangles and all those things. I feel like Murata probably getting in on the legs should probably be safe from that. But you never know with the women. This is just like a weird for a female fight. This is in my opinion, a weird stylistic matchup that I don't really glean too much from, other than probably Murata cannot finish Demopoulos, but maybe I'm looking at goes the distance is minus 230. So I don't know what the deal is with that. But I mean I could see this fight being played GTD or over. I mean, I feel like the over is actually the next fight is 400 minus 400, and this one's only 275. So, or not the next fight though, next female fight though. And that just feels a little wrong to me. But I'm not. This is a pass fight for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it just kind of reminds me of the fight from last card, Inoue versus Goldie. Obviously, one woman was way better, but if you look at the judges' scorecards there, guys, one judge gave uh, Goldie every single round. So even though Inoue was better, even though she was minus 300, the rounds were close and boring enough that the judges actually disagreed on all three rounds. So just keep that in mind here. If
But
you're
the thing is, I feel that freaking Murata's gonna be like Demopoulos will go to the bottom position at some point. So
yeah.
it'll be harder for that something like that to happen. But point taken for sure.
Like I said, Demopoulos seems armbar or gas out reliant. I don't see her winning any other way. But enough about that one. Next fight is in the men's bantamweight division. Johnny Munoz Jr. taking on Olichi Lang, or as some will call him, Aori. Pick'em fight here, minus 110 on both sides. Your turn to start this one off.
The Mongolian murderer, he's back. We got him last time with Ayman Zahabi. Got that knockout. That was a nice underdog cash there. And now they're giving him a grappler here, Johnny Munoz. I've been a fan of Johnny Munoz. I've known him. I've been familiar with him for a long time, over 10 years now. Back when he was only jiu-jitsu. And funny enough, Sean Strickland actually started training at Johnny Munoz's family's gym, Sequence Jiu-Jitsu, way back in the day. So that's very intriguing. Very different fighters, obviously, but Munoz does have that little Sean Strickland boxing style a little bit. The poor man's version of it. Here he needs to grapple. He needs to get these takedowns. He needs to finish Aori, I think, after he does that. His last fight was one of the worst performances I've ever seen. I was so disappointed in it. I don't think I bet on him in that one, but it was just a buzzkill. I just thought that fight was going to be more competitive, more interesting, see more of his skills. He's got a little bit of a kicking. He just doesn't throw with intent. And that's like the biggest thing that I would, advise when, talking to some of these fighters and stuff like that. I remember one of my coaches one time, a lot of the guys were having a hard time, like really landing punches. And they're like, hey, if I gave you a knife and you threw that punch, like you wouldn't even hurt that guy. And that's how I feel about Johnny Munoz's striking, dude. A lot of the punches that he throws are like he's trying to play patty cake with the guy, and that doesn't cut it, dude. At the highest level, against a guy like Aori, who he's looking to counter, he's looking to bait you to throw shots, and then he's gonna uncork very very hard punches right back at you. Now that gives opportunity for takedowns, obviously, and Munoz, he should have the repertoire of shooting these takedowns, slipping over to similar to Rand Dawson, Aljamain Sterling. Like he should be in that kind of mold of fighter. But for some reason, the guy does not show up 100% when he has difficult opposition in front of him. So I think Pick'em is probably fair. Either way, if Munoz wins, it's probably it looks like it's a very hindsight, huge favorite. Aori, he's an idiot. He doesn't know how to grapple at all and stuff like that. So I'm looking at this submission line. And it's close to 300, somewhere around there, and I just feel like if he's gonna win, man, he's gonna have to be really close to submitting this dude Aori at least once or twice. So I think I kind of want to play that a little bit for a little stab on him because I do like Munoz's skills. I do think he trains at a good camp. I do think that he puts in the time. I do think his conditioning is better than I think he's just better overall than he's shown in any of his walks to the cage. So I kind of want to buy still in on him, even though that even at the pick-up line, but I'm gonna mull it over a little bit more.
No, I mean, I gotta side with Aori here. Just, I mean, you brought up good points. I mean, Munoz just doesn't seem like he has that dog in him. Not saying that Aori necessarily does, but the one fight I'm looking at here is the Cody Durden fight. Aori that was down at 125 for him. He got taken
That
down
was a
there.
head-to-head. That was a head-to-head between us.
That was, and I had a minus EV pick. I mean, I think long term, obviously Durden
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
better, but
Right.
I mean, I think looking at that fight, obviously Durden's a better grappler, wrestler, fighter than Johnny Munoz. I mean, that's a
Mhm.
definite. And
Yep.
he still there were still close moments of that fight. It was one round apiece. I think even the third round might have been like a split round. And I think Aori overall did well in that fight. Not a guy who comes from a wrestling background, definitely a striker, but I think he did well, defending some takedowns, getting up, just making it a dogfight. And at 135 though, his cardio hasn't looked so good. I mean, at 125 he slowed down. At 135 he slowed down big time versus Jay Perrin. Easily outboxed Perrin in the first and second round. There was stinging him with punches. The third round he was gassed out, getting out wrestled.
And Jay Perrin is horrible.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's bad, but I mean, Johnny Munoz, I'm just not
He
sold
has
on
no
him.
good skills. Jay Perrin has
Um,
no good skills.
I think he's resilient. I'll say that about him. Remember Mario
Okay.
Bautista showed up on short notice,
He,
made
he
that.
he's from the Northeast. He New England, right? Yeah, yeah. He's
Mm,
resilient.
I
Mickey
don't know.
Ward. Mickey Ward.
No, though, us some people in the tri-state area, they don't fuck with the New Englanders too heavy, especially if you're
Right.
from New York. So man, I don't know. I'm leaning Aori here. That's what I'll say. I think
I
Aori
mean, Aori
obviously
has way more fights than him too. Like he's just
he
way more
just
experienced.
way more damage. That's what I'm thinking here. Is obviously
Yeah.
Munoz could take him down and out grapple him, but I mean, I think he's gonna have to submit him. I don't see him winning 2 rounds clearly from Aori out wrestling him. And Aori, there's no doubt about it that the guy more likely to land more damage and to land a knockout on the feet or to hurt somebody on the feet in this fight is Aori. So,
This is the
uh,
bootleg version of Mitchell versus Ige.
yeah, just like 10
The
10 levels below. Um,
10 deviations below that. Yeah.
um, we're moving on to the last fight on the card. Well, for us, it's the last fight. It's actually the first fight on the card. It's a women's fight. It's a flyweight fight. It's Montana De La Rosa taking on JJ Aldrich. JJ Aldrich coming in here on a bit short notice, but she's had at least several weeks to prepare for the fight. MDLR minus 140 taking on JJ plus 120. And I got a bet here. Haven't bet it yet, but I'm gonna bet it for sure. JJ Aldrich money line. I'm excited about this one, boys. I personally feel that JJ is the much better striker. Obviously, it's women's MMA, it's low level, and the minutes, the better striker isn't going to be a definite thing here. But I'm pretty confident that JJ is the better striker of the two. And when the fight is at distance kickboxing, I think it's going to favor JJ Aldrich. MDLR is obviously going to be looking to take the fight to the floor. But JJ prepares for grapplers all the time. I don't think she's an amazing defensive wrestler, but I think she's capable. I think she's capable of stuffing takedowns, understands underhooks, understands uh, basic wrestling pretty well. And we've seen that versus Blanchfield. We saw it versus Jillian Robertson. And I think but basically, what I saw with her stuff and takedowns in those fights is enough for me to take her here. I just don't think that Montana has good drive in her takedown. She gets her hands clasped behind, or she goes for a takedown. She gets you backed up to the cage. She just doesn't have any physicality to get the fight to the floor. And JJ is actually a pretty big woman for the weight class. I think she's actually sneaky strong. She's got that farm strength about her. I mean, you know,
He's sticking the hips.
exactly. She got a wide body, a wide back. And then the last thing I'll say is, guys, take a look at their Instagrams. But between the two of them, just tell me which Instagram looks like the more dedicated fighter. Who is training with more fellow women's MMA fighters, pro fighters? Who is spending less time with their family? Who is uglier? It's JJ Aldrich, and I'm siding with her for that reason at plus money here for a 1 unit bet. Love JJ here.
Man, that was a hell of a that was a hell what you were speaking about the top Martian, you just, put across right there with the, listen, I'm gonna just tell you how it is, who I'm betting, and that's it. And that was great. And obviously it's
And
important
it's
to
the
me
first fight.
because
It's the first fight.
yeah, exactly. It's important. That's what I was just about to get to. It's very important for me because I'm obviously committed to the bit of I'm betting the first fight of every card from now on. Every fight, prelim fight, the first prelim fight, every card. And this so far has been the toughest one yet. for me to decide on, because early on, Montana was the underdog, and I think Montana's underdog is a very good bet because what did we say earlier? The woman with the better grappling in the women's MMA fights, we want that, we like that. But then, you're looking at Montana, and sometimes like she doesn't land the takedowns with too much oomph on them. And but I do think that she's a better grappler. I do think she's a better grappler. I do think that JJ is sometimes a little bit wilty. I do think that JJ could be taken advantage of in later in the fight. Like I don't think, even though both these, like I don't think JJ necessarily has an advantage in the third. Who do you think is more likely to win a third round? It's kind of a coin flip, right? You wouldn't say one over the other. It's not one over the other, which is kind of the angle that I usually like to take, where I'm like, okay, I feel good about like how people were sure that, like I was sure that Muhammad Usman was going to win the third round against Jay Collier, so I didn't want to bet on Jay Collier. So same kind of thing here. I don't really think JJ is necessarily going to win this third round, so I don't really want to bet JJ that much. But I really don't want to lay juice on Montana De La Rosa because, if JJ, a ginger, stifles her takedown attempts, I'm going to feel very, very dumb. And, Montana has been out since, or she had the Tatiana fight. It felt like the Tatiana fight, honestly, like, she probably, like, I don't even think she was that serious. Yeah, but I don't even think she was that serious about that fight. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
So, I'm not too sure about this fight. But I might, what, Martian? I was thinking about betting the Montana by decision. But your conviction, it sold me. So I'm taking JJ Aldrich plus 120. It's getting bigger. The price is when it was 105, 110, I was like, I really don't want to do this. But we're getting to plus 120. I'll take JJ Aldrich with you. Not a convicted take, but I just feel that even though Montana does have the better grappling, look at the prices. Like they're not really thinking that she's going to submit JJ. So hopefully JJ doesn't wilt, keeps control the fight. I think these girls have trained together. I do think that JJ has probably a little bit maybe better cardio because she's training in Denver. So we'll go with JJ. All right, Martian. This one's on you though. I'll tell you.
And if you're thinking of betting JJ by decision, because obviously that's the most likely outcome for her to win, don't. Bro, her money line is plus 120. Why would you take decision plus 140? That's not even worth considering.
Yeah, definitely not. No, definitely not.
Yeah, I mean, same with MDLR. I mean, I know decision seems like the best, but just take the money line.
I don't know, dude. Plus 130 decision or minus 140 money line? I don't know about that.
Well, that's good because this is gonna take us to the FMK segment, and right off the bat, Ozzy, I'm gonna give you. I picked 3 lines that are all really similar in price. I like either picking lines that are correlated in philosophy or in price, and these ones are price. They have nothing to do philosophy wise. Anyway, first one is the line we were just talking about: MDLR decision plus 130. Next line, a money line. Felipe Lins money line plus 130. And then another line I mentioned, a very obscure line, not Dober ITD plus 140.
Not Dober inside the distance plus 140. Okay. So from the plus 140. Wow, okay. Yeah, so I'm gonna take these are tough. These are tough. So I'm going to I'm gonna fuck the Dober not inside the distance. And you know why? Because I'm fucking that one. And that's gonna be a sweat. That's gonna be a great sweat. I'm gonna be rooting for Ricky Glenn he don't really move his head too much, but I'm gonna be just preaching for defense, okay? I'm gonna marry Phil Lins. You see Phil Lins? You see that Tapology pick? You see him at weigh-ins, bro? Phil Lins. That's Phil Lins. So Phil Lins, yeah, that's one of my favorite bets on the fight card. And then I'm gonna have to kill the sweet Montana De La Rosa. She's married to Mark De La Rosa, who I'm not a fan of, so they could both get the boot.
You would beat him. You would beat him in a fight, though. Just letting you know.
Oh, easily I submit that dude, bro. Are you kidding me? So now, Martian, I'm gonna come back to you with a few. I don't really think about them as much as you do, but let's go with them. So we'll go Joaquin Buckley, minus 175. Okay, on the money line. Karolina Kowalkiewicz, minus 163 on the money line. And we'll mix in a little prop, a little total, and we'll go with the over 2.5 in Algeo versus Hernandez.
What's the price on that?
Minus 125.
Okay. All right. I think right off the bat, I got to kill the one you just mentioned, the Algeo-Hernandez. I think it's just going to be, it has potential to be too highly paced of a fight for me to like the over. Um, it could look like a staring contest, like I said, but I'm gonna kill that one. Um, Mary, on principle, got to go Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Sorry to
Yes.
my man Joseph out there. He's gonna be jealous about that one, but I'm marrying KK just so I could say that I did it.
You wouldn't
And
share? You wouldn't share her with Coco?
oh well, oh yeah, we'll spit roaster.
You got
Anyway,
white swap.
anyway, and then that leads me to fuck the buck. Fuck
Yes.
Joaquin Buckley. Because I'm semi interested in the buck. So I'm gonna give a slight fuck to the buck. I'm gonna marry KK and I'm gonna kill Algeo Hernandez over 2.5 because it's probably
I
gonna be
love
Bill Algeo finishing him under 2.5.
I love those choices. I mean, if you saw Buck at media day, nobody would blame you for wanting to for fucking that, for wanting to fuck. So awesome, great.
I'll
So
have to
let's
look
see how
into it.
we do. Yeah, have to look into that.
And then the Bellator 300 is this weekend. You wouldn't know. Wait, is that this weekend? Yeah, that's this weekend.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
mean, if you look at that card top to bottom, fellas, just absolutely dreadful shit. I mean, that promotion is in deep shit.
Which ones are
Uh,
the title fights? Is
oh,
Carmouche and what's the other one?
Alima Lay,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
then they got Cyborg and Kat Zingano, right? And then they got
Oh.
Usman and then Primus.
Listen, you know what I
Um,
want to say is that I'll say two things though. Primus impressed me in his last fight. That last fight against Mansour was freaking epic. It was great. And anytime Usman Nurmagomedov is fighting, I'm tuned in. So that's all I will say about that.
All I'll say about the Bellator card is the best fighter on the card, top to bottom, is the Hawaiian Kai Kamaka, my motherfucking dog, and he's probably gonna win his fight via decision.
Mm.
So that is gonna do it for us with this one. We obviously lost the best fight on that card, the Big Swarm versus Ryan Bader. Ozzy's not gonna be over that
No,
for a
yeah,
long time, so don't
I
even
was
don't even
upset.
mention it. That'll do it for this one. We had a week off. We're back. We're back in the swing of things. Q4, last 3 months of the year. We got
Who's the
maybe
main
10.
event next week? Who's the main event next week?
Sadiq Youssef and Edson
Ah,
Barbosa.
yes. All right,
Banger. Good
145
card next
banger.
week.
Let's do it.
Good
145
card next
banger. We'll
week.
be back.
I like that one.
We'll be
Well, all
back.
right, we'll be back, everyone. Hope you all enjoyed the fights, win some bets this weekend. We will see you all before the next UFC event next week. Peace out, everyone.